Let's jump into a summary of the ABC murders by Agatha Christie. A strange letter arrives at the home of Hercule Poirot. It is typed, formal, and chilling in tone. The writer addresses Poirot directly and calls himself ABC. He challenges Poirot to stop a murder that will take place in the town of Andover on a specific date. The letter ends with a cryptic signature and a taunting tone, as if daring Poirot to intervene. At first, Poirot and his visiting friend, Captain Arthur Hastings, are puzzled but not alarmed. Poirot, with his characteristic vanity, wonders if this is the work of a madman trying to impress him. Still, they inform the police, just in case. On the exact date mentioned in the letter, an old woman named Alice Asher is found murdered in her small tobacco shop in Andover. Her skull has been crushed, and lying near the body is an ABC railway guide used by travelers to plan train journeys across England. Alice was poor, in her 60s, and estranged from her violent husband. The police naturally suspect him at first, but the presence of the railway guide, placed deliberately, points to something far more premeditated. Poirot realizes this is not an isolated incident. The killer is playing a game. A second letter soon arrives. This time the writer warns Poirot that another murder will take place in Bexhill-on-Sea. Poirot immediately notifies the police and tries to prevent the killing. But they're too late. The victim is a young waitress named Betty Barnard, found strangled on the beach with her own belt. She was fun-loving, flirtatious, and engaged to a man named Donald Fraser. Again, the ABC railway guide is left nearby. B4 Bexhill. B4 Betty. The pattern is undeniable. Someone is working their way through the alphabet, killing individuals whose names match towns, and leaving behind the railway guide as a calling card. Now the case becomes a national obsession. The media give the killer the nickname the ABC murderer, and Scotland Yard brings Poirot into the investigation more formally. What strikes Poirot immediately is how impersonal these killings seem. Alice Asher and Betty Barnard had nothing in common. They weren't connected socially, economically, or geographically. The killer appears to be choosing victims randomly to fit a grotesque alphabetical pattern. And that, to Poirot, is suspicious. Real murders are rarely so neat. Real murderers kill for passion, revenge, gain, not structure. He begins to wonder if the alphabet is a cover for something more sinister. The third letter arrives before they've even begun to make progress. It announces a murder in the town of Churston. But unlike the previous letters, this one is delayed in the post, arriving too late for any intervention. The victim is Sir Carmichael Clark, a wealthy, elderly man who lived in a coastal estate with his much younger companion, Teresa. He was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer and had not yet updated his will. His brother, Franklin Clark, now becomes the primary heir. Poirot takes a keen interest in Franklin. He is intelligent, self-assured, and oddly helpful, almost too helpful. This third murder changes everything. The first two victims were ordinary, working-class individuals. Sir Carmichael Clark, however, is a prominent, affluent man. It seems unlikely that a serial killer choosing victims at random would suddenly target someone so specific. Poirot begins to suspect that the killer may have a personal motive for this one death and that the first two murders were a smokescreen to disguise it. But to make his case, he needs evidence. He also needs to understand the psychology of the murderer. To dig deeper, Poirot forms what he calls the Legion or ABC Murder Club, composed of relatives and acquaintances of the victims. Among them are Megan Barnard, Betty's sister, Donald Fraser, Betty's heartbroken fiancé, Mary Drower, niece of Alice Asher, and Franklin Clark, brother of the third victim. Poirot believes that by studying the effects of the crimes on those left behind, he may uncover new angles, hidden motives, or buried clues. He watches them all carefully, particularly Franklin. A fourth letter arrives. The next target will be in Doncaster, during the town's famous race day. Despite an intense police presence and Poirot's warnings, the killer strikes again. This time, however, the victim does not fit the pattern. George Earlsfield, a cinema worker, is found stabbed in the crowd. He is not wealthy, not connected to any other victim, and has no clear link to the letter D. Poirot immediately notices the inconsistency. Why break the pattern now? And more importantly, why was this fourth letter not delayed, like the third? Why did the killer suddenly want it to arrive early? Then, a breakthrough. A man named Alexander Bonaparte Cust comes under suspicion. He is a reclusive, anxious man who works as a traveling stocking salesman. Cust has epilepsy, frequent blackouts, and serious memory lapses. When questioned, he admits he was in Andover, Bexhill, Churston, and Doncaster at the time of each murder. His landlady reports that he often speaks to himself, and in his room, the police find unused ABC railway guides, a typewriter matching the letters sent to Poirot, and blood-stained clothing. Cust begins to doubt his own innocence. He wonders aloud, could he have committed these crimes during a blackout? The police are quick to declare the case solved. They arrest Cust and prepare charges. But Poirot is not satisfied. The case is too neat. The evidence feels planted, and the entire scenario too convenient. Poirot senses that Cust, though odd, lacks the mental clarity or arrogance to orchestrate such a complex pattern of killings. And Cust's confusion, far from being proof of guilt, seems to Poirot like proof of manipulation. Someone knew Cust's weaknesses and used them. Poirot gathers the Legion for one final meeting. In classic fashion, he lays out the facts and presents his solution. The murderer, he reveals, is Franklin Clark. The real motive was money. Franklin knew that his brother, Sir Carmichael Clark, was planning to marry Teresa and change his will. If that happened, Franklin would inherit nothing. So he devised a plan. He murdered two random people, Alice and Betty, following a fake alphabetical pattern. He then killed his brother as the C victim, making it look like just another number in a madman's spree. Finally, he killed a fourth random man to continue the illusion. All the while, he had manipulated Cust into being nearby, planted the evidence, and sent the letters on Cust's typewriter. Franklin had the intelligence to plan it all, the access to details from his brother's home, and the coldness to murder three strangers just to hide one calculated killing. Poirot reveals that Clark sent the fourth letter early, in a panic, after realizing the third letter had been delayed. That break in pattern was his undoing. With the timeline unraveled, Clark confesses. The case is closed. Cust is released. He was an innocent man, turned into a scapegoat by someone far more cunning. Poirot's insights into motive, structure, and deception, his unmatched understanding of human psychology, had once again exposed the truth. The ABC murders were never about the alphabet. They were about one man's greed, dressed up as madness. Don't forget to subscribe and watch another summary.